Chapter 21. Sometimes you gotta fail in order to succeed. Samson, medical school. Medical school was a different world. Their class was made up of 120 students. It seemed to Samson that everyone had a family member or two who was a physician. That blew his mind. One day in a microbiology class, the professor instructed the students to place a specimen on the agar in order to see if the bacteria would grow in the petri dish. What? Thought Samson. What is he talking about? What is a petri dish? What is agar? Samson looked around the room, and everyone was following the professor's orders. He was the only one with a blank look on his face. The rest of the students had had lots of prior experience in medicine and laboratory work. Samson felt increasingly confused and out of place as the weeks went by. The gap that existed between him and the rest of his classmates was made very clear as Samson boarded an elevator one day at the end of classes. A neurologist and urologist whom he had seen on campus many times were deep in conversation. Both of them ignored the young medical student who listened in. "How was your weekend, Bob?" the urologist asked. "Terrific, Artie," the neurologist replied. "I spent most of the weekend teaching my 6-year-old niece how to use my stethoscope. She spent hours listening to her heart and everyone else's in the family as well. Then she moved on to listening to the humming of household appliances and insects," he laughed. "She'll be a great doctor one day." "Just like her uncle," the urologist replied genuinely. The two of them walked off the elevator, laughing and talking of other things. Samson just stood there, overwhelmed by what he had finally figured out. "I was 24 years old the first time I picked up a stethoscope," he thought. "I had no idea what a heart or lungs might sound like when I listened through it." At 6 years old, Samson had seen others use other instruments, like knives and guns, not ones that would make a difference in his life or the lives of others. Samson couldn't help but envy the young girl. He had missed out on so much. Perhaps the road might have been easier if he had some of those early opportunities. He continued to have challenges both in class and within himself. He knew that if he felt better about his place in his medical work, he would do better in school. But it was a vicious cycle. Feeling out of place bred less than desirable efforts, which led to disappointing results. He felt him spiraling himself downward. He finally hit bottom when the letter came. Samson slumped into a chair. His face wore a look of dejection and despair. "What's wrong, man?" Ramik asked, although he had a pretty good idea what Sam would tell him. "I failed the state board medical exams," Samson said in disbelief. "Oh, dog, I'm so sorry," Ramik said. "But don't worry, it's going to be all right. You get to take it again, man." "Yeah, I know," Sam said. "Maybe this is a sign that I'm not meant to be a doctor." "Don't talk crazy. This is just a temporary setback. How close were you to the pass point?" 3 points, Samson said with confusion. "I studied hard, man. Shoot, we studied together, staying up all night, cramming for this one test that determines everything." "I know you know the material," Ramik said gently. "You had it down cold." "Yeah, I know. Well, it all left me. My brain was a blank, and I shut down the day of the test. I just couldn't think. It wasn't the test itself. I knew the material. It was my lack of focus, I guess." "It's no big deal. You get to take it again," Ramik said with encouragement. Samson shook his head. "It is a big deal. I've told you before. I'm torn about this doctor stuff. I don't know any doctors. I didn't grow up around doctors, and I don't have any doctor friends. And it isn't as if the medical school is trying to help a kid from the ghetto get it together. They can't relate to the struggles and hardships I've been through." Ramik touched Sam's shoulder. "I can, man. I'm not looking for any sympathy or pity. I'm just looking for my angle, a place in medicine where it all makes sense. I was prepared for the test, man, but I just psyched myself out, that's all." "All of us feel like that at one time or another," Ramik told him. We're in this together, remember? Yeah, but we didn't fail this exam together. I'm in this one by myself, Sam reminded him. Every morning, instead of going to the hospital with the rest of the medical students, Samson went to the medical library. He went over biology, microbiology, anatomy, and physiology. He quizzed himself and pushed himself, determined to pass the test with a high score when he took it again. He spent time with Carla Dixon and challenged himself to find his place in medicine. He played basketball and exercised regularly to help clear his mind and reduce stress. There were plenty of quiet times when he would pray to God, asking for strength and direction. He knew he would find answers to his dilemma. When the time came to retake the exam, Samson felt much more relaxed and confident. He knew the material, and the answers came quickly. When it was over, he knew he had passed with flying colors. He breathed a deep sigh of relief and sent up a silent prayer. Thank you, God. When the official letter came to verify that Sam had indeed passed the test, he and Ramik went out to celebrate. I knew you'd ace it, man, George told him as they stuffed themselves with cheesy pizza. Yeah, Samson admitted, I needed that to happen. There was a reason for it, and I know sometimes you gotta fail in order to succeed. You got the right stuff, Ramik told him with sincerity. You're going to be a dynamite doctor. Yeah, you're right, Samson agreed. We are going to be great doctors. The next 2 years passed quickly, with Samson and Ramik taking clinical rotations at various hospitals in pediatrics, surgery, family practice, obstetrics, and other fields. The purpose was for students to learn by observation and sometimes participation in the care of patients in different departments of the hospital. George did the same in the clinical and the dental clinics. Samson easily passed the next board exam that came up, and he maintained high grades throughout the rest of medical school. As they got closer to graduation, each medical student was to decide what field he or she wanted to specialize in and then apply to various hospitals for job placement. The hospitals sorted through the applicants and accepted those they wanted. Computers matched young doctors and physicians from all over the country. The anticipation built up to extreme tension and excitement. It was a little like the NBA draft, and it was the most important day in the senior year of medical school. It was called Match Day, and every single medical student in the country opened his or her letter at the same time. Ramik decided he liked internal medicine, while Samson felt really comfortable in emergency medicine. He liked the fast pace and variety of that department, where cases could vary from gunshot wounds to dog bites to upset stomachs. But he had waited until the last minute to file his paperwork, and no slots in emergency medicine seemed to be open. Faced with limited options, he applied for a position in internal medicine, but his heart was not in it. On match day, Ramik gleefully opened his letter, which confirmed his position in internal medicine at Robert Wood Johnson Medical School in New Brunswick. Samson didn't bother to open his letter at first because he knew it offered a position in an area of medicine he did not want to pursue. Later, however, Samson signed the letter of intent that promised him a slot in internal medicine at the University of Maryland. Glumly, he went through the motions of finishing school. He felt despondent, unable to maintain any excitement about his future. He felt lost in limbo. Finally, he called Carla Dixon. Carla was always there for him, as well as Ramik and George. I can't do this, Samson told her. I can't spend the next year doing something I hate. I'd rather quit. You're not a quitter, Sam, she told him. What is it you really want to do? Emergency medicine, but there were no matches, no openings, he sighed. Follow your heart and pray, Samson. The answer will come to you, Carla told him with confidence. Why bother? It's too late now anyway, he said. It's never too late. You can't walk around in a pit for the next year. Go for it. Samson, feeling hopeless, but somehow having too much persistence and determination to give up, suddenly had an inspiration. Maybe I'll just check the internet and see what's out there, he thought. For some reason, he felt a glimmer of possibility, almost as if this idea had been divinely inspired. He sat down at the computer and typed in residency in emergency medicine. The computer whirred for a minute, then the name Newark Beth Israel Hospital appeared, with a contact number. The computer page said all the positions were filled. This couldn't be possible. How could Newark have a program and I didn't know about it? No harm in calling, Sampson said to himself. But since I'm from Newark, maybe they can find a place for me. He knew this was a long shot. Early in the matching process, Sampson had filled out the electronic form for emergency medicine, and over 100 training programs were listed. Newark Beth Israel, however, had not appeared on the original list. He picked up the phone and made the call. Hello, this is Newark Beth Israel Hospital. I'm Jackie Johnson, resident coordinator. How may I help you? My name is Sampson Davis. I'm a graduate of the University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey, Robert Wood Johnson Medical School, and I did not match in emergency medicine. I just discovered that you have a residency at Beth Israel, and I would desperately love to become associated with you if you have any openings. He explained the whole story to her. You know, Dr. Davis, your life must be guided by divine intervention, she said. Just yesterday, we had a cancellation in emergency medicine. We have an opening. Fax me your information right away. Overjoyed, Sampson sent the information, then waited for the phone call that would determine his future. The phone rang. Hello, Dr. Davis. This is Jackie at Beth Israel. The program director is very interested in talking to you. Can you come for an interview on Wednesday? When Sampson walked through those hospital doors, he knew right away that Newark Beth Israel was the place for him. The smells of antiseptic and astringent seemed to energize him, and the feelings generated by human trauma and fear seemed to motivate him. He answered the interview questions with ease and confidence, and was offered a position just 2 days later. It was as if his prayers had been answered. Somehow he had snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. His life was summed up by this one experience. He would be returning as a doctor to the same hospital where he was born, the same hospital where he was taken when the rock crushed his foot, the same hospital where the seeds of his interest in medicine had first been planted. Dr. Sampson Davis was going home. A conversation with Dr. Sampson Davis, going back to where it all began. Impossible. I went all over the country, interviewing at different facilities, while all the time my place was right back at home, where it all started. I couldn't have scripted it better. To be back home, taking care of individuals I went to school with, and neighbors, friends, relatives, and people from the community was simply priceless. That experience made me believe that some things are out of our control, and only faith can see us through. When times get hard, as they certainly will, and the situation seems hopeless, as it certainly will seem to be at times, spiritual belief and old-fashioned faith are powerful allies to see you through. When it looked as though I would have to take a job in internal medicine, it seemed as if my struggle had been meaningless. Just at the point when I was finally supposed to capture success, it was going to be snatched away from me. But with faith, a little good fortune, and my 3 Ds, discipline, determination, and dedication, I was placed at the hospital where it all began. The same hospital where I was taken for my broken foot so many years ago became the place where I began my practice of medicine. From a frightened 6-year-old patient to a confident 20